Matthew chapter 14 verses 22 through 33. Alleluia, alleluia. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits for his word. Alleluia, alleluia. After he had fed the people, Jesus made the disciples get into a boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed crowds. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, he was there alone. Meanwhile the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, he came toward them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. At once Jesus spoke to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." Peter said to him in reply, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught Peter, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why doubt?" After they got into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did him homage, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Verse 22, he dismissed the crowds. A teacher controls the length of any lesson, or learning situation. Jesus had been trying to dismiss the crowds, and had even left them by boat, but when they heard of his departure, they followed him on foot. Still trying to dismiss them, he had compassion on them because they were hungry. Jesus then converted 5 loaves and 2 fish into enough food to feed 5,000 men, besides the women and children. After having fed them, Jesus was able to dismiss them, and go into the hills by himself to pray, while he sent the disciples by boat to the other side. You might ask yourself why Jesus had a sense of urgency about dismissing the crowd. From the Gospel of John we read chapter 6 verses 14 to 16, when the people saw the sign which he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." Perceiving then that they were about to come, and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. Intensive storms or squalls often happen without warning on the Sea of Galilee. This reading reminds us of Matthew chapter 8 verses 23 to 27, when Jesus was asleep in the boat, another unexpected storm suddenly came up. Meanwhile the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. Mark chapter 6 verse tells us that this reading took place in Bethsaida. John estimates that they were 3 to 4 miles offshore. It is now the fourth watch. Dividing 6 p.m. through 6 a.m. into 4 3-hour segments would mean, it was between 3 to 6 a.m. It is a ghost. Many people believed in the existence of ghost, so it was a natural reaction to seeing Jesus walking on the water. Matthew is the only gospel that tells about Peter joining Jesus for a walk on the water. Peter was the only one in the boat who believed it was Jesus. Peter asked to join Jesus as he walked on the water. When his request was granted, he experienced for himself a demonstration of God's power. Peter started to sink because he took his eyes off Jesus, he lost his religious focus, and focused on things of the world, and the high waves that surrounded him. We too do the same, when we lose sight of Jesus and focus on worldly, not heavenly values. The boat has often been viewed as a symbol of the church. The storm has been viewed as all those who oppose the church. The message of this passage is that Jesus is the ultimate victor over all who oppose the boat, the church, and all those who are opposed to the church's message and Christianity in general. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 and 6, Trust in the Lord with all your heart. On your own intelligence rely not. In all your ways be mindful of him, and he will make straight your paths. New American Bible.